No odor, no mess, and no stress. Stop swatting and ditch the DIY traps. With Zevo, getting rid of bugs is as easy as click, click, blue. Zevo, people friendly, bug deadly.
Yeah, I'm so stressed. Our business is growing. We've got people all over now.
Ooma.
What is that? Meditation?
I'm recommending the Ooma cloud phone system with auto attendant and more than 50 features.
Ooma?
Yep, switching to Ooma is a cinch. Just $24.95 per month per user, plus taxes and fees.
Ooma.
Now you're feeling it. Find small business calm at ooma.com/radio. That's OOMA.com/radio.
The Good Neighbor Network, FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, and online at WGNSradio.com. This is the Roundtable. A look at the news, views, politics, and people that are shaping Rutherford County.
Good Wednesday morning. Chip Walters here with you, and welcome into the Roundtable on WGNS. Today is the longest day of the year as far as the amount of daylight. Sun came up at 5:30 this morning, and sunset will be at 8:07, and every day after this for the rest of the year, it will be getting a minute or two shorter every day. So go out and enjoy it. Hopefully, right now as we look out the window, there is sunshine here in downtown Murfreesboro, and but you're going to have sunshine, chances this afternoon of a little more rain, just kind of like yesterday's crazy weather was. But glad to have you with us today for it's going to be a fun hour, and a couple of guys who I really have a ton of respect for, and their being on the show today resulted from a Facebook picture that I saw about a week or two ago. And my guests today are Dick Palmer, the old pro, and Bill Shacklet. So glad you guys could come down today.
Oh, happy to be here, Chip.
Does this mean that today's program is going to go longer or shorter than normal?
Well, the plan is, you never know what reality is going to be, but the plan is we would be off because the public will be clamoring for Brian Barrett at 10 a.m. So
that's right.
Exactly.
His fan club.
The fan club. I don't want to get them riled up today.
No.
So we will.
They
be
are
ready.
legion.
Now, the picture that I saw 10 days ago or so was a picture of Bill and Dick, and you all had run across each other and had a little conversation and realized that between the two of you, you all have coached Little League Baseball a combined 100 years. Is that crazy or what?
That's very crazy. Of course, Bill's got about 75 of those.
That's right.
Oh, yes, and it shows.
Well, and for the folks who are watching today on Big G TV, Mr. Palmer wore his Little League outfit today. You've got
it's a T-shirt from one of the state tournaments,
and you have your Murfreesboro All-Star cap there
That's right.
is in front of you. But kind of you guys take me back through the conversation you had 10 years ago and the revelation that kind of came out of that.
Well, let Dick kind of tell the story on how Little League in Murfreesboro started, because I actually came into this as the same program we coach in is the league that I played in as a boy. Well, and Dick was there before I got there.
Because there was a second picture,
That's
and the
right.
second picture was of you as a player, and your head coach
was Dick Palmer. And Andy Womack at that time was on the other side. I think he was 16 years old or something like that. And he was the coach, and Dick was the manager, and I was a little 12-year-old All-Star.
That was an All-Star team, and one of my first All-Star teams, I guess. Really, I started doing this very young. 1950 was the very first year of Little League in Murfreesboro.
So this is the 72nd year.
Yes, and it was, I think Little League started in Williamsport, Pennsylvania in 1938, a year I was born, by the way. So I was like 12 in 1950.
Wow.
There was no organized baseball in Murfreesboro before that, so we all just went out in the backyard and played. over on East Main Street where I lived, we had a big lot in the backyard, and we had bases cut out, and kids came in from the neighborhood and played. We had fun. There wasn't any pressure on winning or losing.
If you've ever seen the movie Sandlot, it's just like that.
That was it.
Sort of like that. But anyway, it was a big thrill when they started Little League in 1950 for me to play. It just so happened that the team I was on was my most unfavorite team in baseball.
Oh, really?
The Yankees.
Oh, that's right.
My goodness.
But I didn't become a Yankee fan because of that either. But I enjoyed playing that 1 year. And then also next year they started the Babe Ruth League, which was for ages 13, 14, and 15. So I got to play my 12-year-old year, and then 13, 14, and 15 in Babe Ruth League, and that was it for my baseball. Our high school did not have a baseball team.
Wow.
Only had a football and girls and boys basketball at Murfreesboro
That was
Central.
at Central High School.
Yeah, right. Didn't have baseball.
Wow. And so your first year of being able to play, Bill, was when?
Well, actually, I played as a 9-year-old too.
Okay.
They had 3 little leagues in Murfreesboro at that time. Kiwanis Civic Club. Kiwanis had a little league program, and then there was a VFW FOP league that I started in as a 9-year-old. And then they would actually have drafts, and you could get cut from the team. You'd carry more than 15 players, and then you'd cut the roster down to 15 after practices. And then there was a league called the Southern League that if you didn't make Little League, you played in the Southern League that was played behind schools. My Southern League played at Hopgood, and I've got images that look just like Sandlot, with all the blue jeans with the curled up bottoms and T-shirts is all we had, and then but as an 11-year-old, I tried out and made a team in the Optimus program and played as 11 and 12-year-old with the Optimus program.
And that was my first coaching experience, was in that Southern League program for kids that did not make the regular Little League. So I had that for 2 years. I had a team called the Lookouts.
Yeah.
And, of course, after the Chattanooga professional team. But and I was like 16 years old maybe when I started coaching, because that was all the baseball I had back then. Didn't have any place to play. And I ran into a guy who played on that very first Lookouts team that I had. And he said, "Aren't you Dick Palmer?" I said, "Yes." He said, "I played for you." And I looked at him.
You said, "You couldn't have. You're an old man."
I said, and I remembered him. He was a left-handed pitcher. And I said, "Well, if you don't mind me asking, how old are you now?" He said, "I'm 76.
Wow. Oh, my goodness.
So you were 8 years older than him.
No, I was about 5 years older than him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, this was at the time.
This was at the time, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So as one of my former players is 76 years old. I couldn't believe it.
Isn't that something?
I had the same kind of revelation, not to that extent, but I was speaking to a group out at New Vision, 55 and up, and showing old pictures of Murfreesboro, and a guy came up, tapped me on the shoulder, called me coach. And when you think that, I've got to figure out, look at their eyes, because their eyes don't change too much, but I recognized who it was. It was the Patricks that used to own the bowling alley. And and I said, "Well, what are you doing here? This is a 55 and up coach." He said, "Coach, I'm 56 years old."
Was that Jimmy?
No, it's Mike. I believe
Okay,
it's
gotcha.
Mike. Yeah.
And I know Jimmy's still involved and doing stuff, but that's crazy. That
I ran into a guy at eating out last week at Sylvan Park, and they were seated at the table next to us. My family was there, and he had his family there, and he kept looking at me. And when I got up to pay, he said, "Excuse me," he said, "Are you Coach Palmer?" I said, "Yes." And I didn't recognize him, But I had coached football and basketball at Hopgood after I got out of college for 2 years.
Remember that.
And he said, I'm Terry Wilson. I played basketball and football for you at Hobgood.
Terry Wilson, one of Bobby Wesson's buddies. That Terry Wilson?
I don't know. He lives out at Readable.
Okay, I think that's correct.
But anyway, that's just right out of the blue.
Yes. It's fun. That particular time, I guess, when you have young people, sports becomes so important to them, whether it's baseball or anything else, and to touch young people at a time in their life, you become lifetime friends.
Going back to those days around 1950 that you talked about, who were some of the other people that were involved in getting organized baseball together?
The Kiwanis Club actually started the first Little League.
You guys were involved in Optimus for years and years.
Well, there was no Optimus Club at that time.
Okay, but when it happened, y'all were.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. But the Kiwanis people actually got the ball rolling, and I don't know a lot of the people that got it started, but I do remember my first Little League coach was an MTSU professor named Newby Freeman. I think he was an ag professor out there. I don't remember many of the other coaches, but I later went on to come back and help coach in that league after I got through playing with the same team, the Yankees. A gentleman named Gilbert Sharon was the head coach, and he allowed me to come sit and watch and kind of help whatever I could do. And that kind of really introduced me to the coaching aspect of it. And then I got to coach in that minor league or Southern League program after that. But Mr. Sharon went on. He was a teacher at Critchlow School. I never did have him in the classroom, but he was a great instructor, great role model for young people. Kenneth Victory was one of our players. When he was 12 years old, Coon Victory was our best player. He was our pitcher. And
I'm not surprised that he was your best player.
And, of course, he later went on to play at Middle Tennessee and was a great player there.
Do you remember your team you were the Senators at that time?
Yes.
You coached the Senators. Now, anybody remember baseball? The Senators is an old baseball name.
That's right.
The Washington Senators, and I remember they were the dynamic team. They were one of the top teams in the program, and you did such a wonderful job with them at that age. It was I always wanted to, you had to play the Senators. It was going to be a tough game.
And later on, our late friend Gary Millsaps coached the Senators.
Sure did.
Yeah, before that, Wayne Gross was one of my best friends. Had the Senators, and Gary coached with him. And then when Wayne stepped out, Gary took it and ran with it.
Well, who do you? What other names do you remember from those formative years with Kiwanis and that Southern League and all of that?
Right. Well, Sam Kerr, Sam Kerr, the Eeks, Gary and Rodney, they all kind of worked that as young people, young men, kind of forming their ideas of trying to do something for young people that weren't too much younger than them.
That's right.
And they were out there helping, coaching, and forming values in young people at a very young age. And as I said, Andy, at 16 years old, was very active in the program. I think Andy coached 20 to 25, 20, 30 years in that program, the same time that Dick and I were coaching. But Jack Laster was actually my coach as a Dodger, which is what Dick took over the Dodgers.
That's right.
When we had competitive years, Dick was coaching the Dodgers, and Jack Laster coached at that when I was coming up, and his son played, and he and I, David and I, were in school together as well. But so many great names. I mean, Andy Brown from the hospital, was on a team in that league. I think he played for the White Sox, and then Tommy Campbell was in that league. Lots of names of people that played, but also people that helped the program
don't
develop.
forget Mr. Duffy. Ray
and
Duffy
Mr. Duffy.
Was
my
there,
goodness, yes.
And to help any way he could. And this was before he was recreation director.
Yes.
He was may have still been in radio then. Of course, he came here in 47 with WGNS to broadcast Central High School football and basketball. That's I think that's probably the station went on the air in 47. I think they picked it right up after then. Came down from Massachusetts, and nobody could understand it.
He spoke a foreign language.
A funny story. friend of mine, Norris Lovern, who was also instrumental,
I remember Norris.
particular in the Babe Ruth League. Norris Lovern said when Ray Duffy first came to Murfreesboro and went on the air at WGNS, he said, I couldn't understand what was saying. He said, I thought there was something wrong with my radio. He said, I took it down to the radio shop and said, I want you to fix this where I can understand this guy. He said, there's nothing wrong with your radio. He's from Massachusetts.
And then that's a little bit telling itself when you actually said somebody took it down to the radio shop to get fixed, or even taking a TV in to get it fixed.
Exactly.
But to me, one of the most interesting parts about all of that is, and I guess it had to be a direct product of Central High School not having a baseball team, is how so many guys got into the coaching part of it at such a young age, and you were, Mr. Palmer, you were right there in that, and it was just, was it your servant heart that you wanted to give back to the young men, or was it your want to stay in the game in some sense? Or
I think it was just wanting to stay in the game. Mr. Duffy would actually broadcast Little League games from old Grantland Rice Park. You remember Grantland Rice?
Where was that?
Played Babe Ruth. It was behind where Murfreesboro Athletic Club, the MAC, and all that. Right behind there. Is where it was. I've got a funny story. Once y'all get this.
I've got another one after yours.
Okay, well, this may be the same story because about losing the left fielder. Is that the story you're thinking about?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, well, they were playing out there and didn't have any fences at that point in time, So, but this area was an area where when the carnivals would come to town, they would set up out in this field, and they were playing a baseball game.
So right there where it's called Avalon now.
Exactly.
But that was that was a big field.
Huge
That's
field.
where if the carnivals came, you had a baseball
game,
somewhere.
backstop, somebody was playing, and all of a sudden they look up and they've lost their right fielder, I guess it was, or left fielder.
Right fielder.
And he said, where is he? He had left the game in his uniform and gone over and gotten on one of the carousels.
He was on a pony. There was, how they would put a
pony
in a circle, and the kids would get to ride the pony. And he was there in his uniform, riding the pony in the middle of the game.
In the middle of the game, he said, "Hey, we got to finish this game."
So he didn't stick a feather in his hat and call it macaroni, did he? So, oh my goodness,
that's good.
Well, I tell you, we got great memories coming here. If you've got questions or comments or a memory you'd like to throw in, you can text us or call us at 615-893-1450. Bill Shacklett, Dick Palmer with us today. We're talking about 100 years of coaching between the two in Little League Baseball here in Murfreesboro. Got more coming up.
All right, fellas, June is National Men's Health Month, which is a good time to remind you to take care of your health. I recommend going to Low T Center. That's where I get my levels checked. It's typically completely covered by most health insurance, and if you don't have insurance, it's less than $100 for full labs and an office visit with the provider. Low T Center specializes in men's health, making it quick and easy. Go to lowtcenter.com now to book your appointment online. That's lowtcenter.com. Low T Center, reinventing men's health care.
If you can dream it, Farrah Construction can turn it into reality. Shop local, Farrah Construction Company. I'm Ron Hall. Investing in property can be nerve-wracking. It does not have to be. Farrah Construction offers high-quality craftsmanship, quick response, and attention to detail. Our goal is to keep your expenses low while focusing on our attention on high-quality services. I'm Ron Hall. Shop local. Let our family business help you. Farrah Construction Company.
Hi, this is Bob Cornell, pastor of Covenant Church right here in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. The answer that you've been looking for is found in Jesus and what he accomplished at the cross. You see, Jesus changes lives from the inside out. We would love for you to join us at Covenant Church, located at 1124 Brinkley Ave right here in Murfreesboro. We have services Sunday morning at 10:30 a.m. and Tuesdays at 7 p.m. You can learn more about us at our Cornell Ministries YouTube channel. We want you to grow in Christ at Covenant Church.
It's Good Neighbor Events, brought to you by AmeriCare Pest Control, Cardinal Realty Solutions, and the law offices of John Day.
Let the experts at Cardinal Realty Solutions, based in Murfreesboro, help you with your Middle Tennessee real estate needs.
We were first-time home buyers.
Selling and buying a home can be stressful. Find a realtor you can trust at CardinalRealtySolutions.com.
When severe weather strikes, we break in.
Tornado warning for central Rutherford County.
Our own meteorologist giving you a complete Rutherford County forecast.
So you should be in shelter already in
There is no safer place in the storm. News Radio WGNS.
Let's check those WGNS Good Neighbor events. There's a grief support group meeting every Wednesday morning at 10 at the St. Clair Street Senior Center. The St. Clair Street Senior Center is at 325 St. Clair Street. That's Wednesday mornings at 10. Oh, and if you need a gun safe, the General Assembly has eliminated all sales tax on gun safes purchased in Tennessee now through August 31st. And the Central Magnet School team for the 2023 Great Race leaves St. Augustine, Florida this Saturday morning, June 24th, and travels 2,300 miles to Colorado Springs, Colorado. And once again, they're driving that green 1953 Pontiac Chieftain named Bonnie. Good luck to you. That starts this Saturday morning, and WGNS will give you updates throughout the race. Let's go, Tigers. Don't throw away old glory. Bring your American flag to WGNS, and let the girls from BSA Troop 2019 at Trinity United Methodist Church retire it with dignity.
Good neighbor weather. We'll see a few scattered showers and thunderstorms here for this afternoon with cloudy skies, a high in the low 80s. Winds out of the northeast gusting as high as 20 miles per hour. I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki on News Radio WGNS. Currently, it's 69.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, and worldwide at WGNSradio.com.
Glad to have you this Wednesday morning on the Roundtable. Bill Shacklett, Dick Palmer, two guys who have served this community for an awful long time. And Dick, you touched on something a little bit earlier, and that was that Mr. Duffy broadcast some Little League games. Well, one of your first opportunities to maybe cut your teeth on some broadcasting was with Little League as well.
Well, you know, Mr. Duffy would sit up on that little raised platform behind home plate at Grantland Rice Park and broadcast Little League games. And I would sit up there and I would keep the official scorebook. And one day he told me, or he asked me, he said, "You want to do an inning?" So I got to do that. And I didn't even remember doing that. My father remembered it and told me before he passed away that was how I got my start. I said, well, I thought I got my start when I went off to college for 2 years, junior college, and came back to Middle Tennessee for my last 2 years. And I walked into the studios at WMTS, which is right down the street on here on Broad Street. And John Hood was working there. Mm-hmm. And I told John, I said, you know, I'd like to hang around, you know, and see.
And a shout out to Mr. Hood this morning if he's listening out. Mm-hmm. So he does a lot of times. But
yes, he is my mentor.
Yeah, he's mentored a lot of people.
Yeah,
in a lot of
responsible for me being in radio. But anyway, there was a state tournament held over on Highland Avenue at the Little Park, right across from the police department, where the police department is now.
Right there at Oakland's Park.
There was a big field the Babe Ruth League played on.
And Little League.
There was a little field.
With dugouts, real dugouts.
Yeah.
The old-fashioned dugouts in the ground.
That our league played on. And they held a state tournament here on that little field. And my station manager at WMTS was Virgil Trim. And he said, I have a call from Jackson, Tennessee. The radio station there wants us to broadcast their games. They were in the state tournament.
Wow.
He said, would you like to do that? I said, I'd love to. So we did it from that old press box above
goodness. Oh, wow.
Above the field at the park. And I think I broadcast 3 games. They won the championship.
Wow.
And about 2 days later, the manager of the Dixie Network, which was headquartered in Jackson, called me and offered me a job.
Wow.
We need somebody to do high school football and basketball. Would you be interested?
Heck yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I'd been trying to make some contacts, but I didn't know how to do it. You know, I knew kind of what I wanted to do, and that actually got me into broadcasting sort of full time, you might say.
Yeah, I'd done it's similar to that. I'd done a lot of PA work in baseball while I was in high school and early on. Then you and Gary and Wayne and probably Andy Womack roped me in what year was it? 1984 maybe. There was the Little League State Tournament was here.
83.
83, and it was out at Old Fort
Park.
Old Fort Park.
Yep.
And I did exactly the same thing that Dick talked about.
Wow.
Is there were towns that brought their all-stars here. Mm-hmm. I would do the games on the radio on their stations back home, and you're trying to figure out with the telephone line and all that kind of stuff. But I do remember in that state tournament, Morristown won the state tournament. Richie Conway.
He ended up playing at MTSU.
Yes, he did. And they went on and got to Williamsport.
They did.
And they won the U.S. championship and lost to
Mexico or something.
Taipei or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But they won the U.S. championship. And Richie came to MTSU and had a really good career. And I can still remember him one night against Tennessee. He had middle was winning and he struck. He was working in like the 7th or 8th inning, and he struck out a batter to end the inning. And he came off the mound over the middles, and he came off high stepping like a walking horse. And then, I mean, he was pumped that night. But that was, you talk about doing things on a wing and a prayer and trying to get it on the air, and worked out okay.
Yeah, and our Optimist Club actually hosted.
We did
that tournament at Ray Duffy Field, which was out where the tennis center, Adams Tennis Center, is now. Of course, they bulldozed the field there. Don't get me into that. But anyway, we hosted that tournament.
One of the funny stories from that event, because we were all standing behind it. You're right up on the action, because the backstops were really shallow at those fields, and we were watching, and a boy hit a home run, and all of us guys that coach out there, he'd run the bases, but when he got to home plate, all of his team had come to the home plate together, and just before he hit home plate, he jumped up in the air. His team caught him and walked him to the dugout. And
Did he ever touch the plate?
He never touched the plate, and we're all sitting there. Do you think they saw that? Do you think the umpire saw that? Well, the kid from the pitcher walked over to the dugout and tagged him, and the umpire called him out. It was
wow.
I remember that. Yeah.
I thought, oh my goodness, because our fields at that, if you remember, our fields were only 175 feet, and everybody was saying we're going to have all kinds of home runs. This is not, they were concerned about us hosting the state championship because the fields were so short. But we didn't have that many home runs. We did have some home runs, but not that many.
You mentioned Grantland Rice Park over on Memorial. Or between Memorial and back in there, around Burton Street and all that. But what are some other fields or ballparks you remember from back in the day that don't exist anymore? I can think of Samsonite, but that was mainly softball there.
I can tell you where the first Little League games were played. They were played behind the campus school.
Oh.
All right, where we called it training school. But they were played behind the campus school.
Wow.
And there was a hill, and down at the bottom of that hill there was some flat ground, and they carved a baseball field out of that. And I think maybe was it Lytle Avenue that was the boundary on one end.
Wow.
And that's where they played the first Little League games, and it's where I hit my only home run.
That would have been
Only home run I ever hit.
Yeah, that would have been between Lytle and Bell.
Yeah.
Yeah, right there.
So many of the schools had backstops on them too. Like we said, the Southern League, where kids just wore blue jeans and a T-shirt, and you got a cap.
Yeah.
But so many of the like Mitchell Nielsen had backstops and stuff and played. But I remember, like I say, my program was at Southern League at Hopgood. I've got a really neat. I'd love for y'all to see, if you get a chance to see that. I did a little video of that. Dad had actually taken 8mm film of that experience, because it kind of shows you that Sandlot was right here in Murfreesboro, and so much of our experience and what began as our love for this game. And it's because of the love of what this game can, the potential it can do. It can teach young people so much about life, experience success, failure, working together for a common goal. That's what's kept me around for all these years.
And back then, there wasn't any other sport
for
available for
kids.
And
you didn't have travel ball teams like
there
you
was
do
no
now.
Soccer. There was no summer basketball.
Schools didn't have.
There was no junior league football.
No.
Nothing.
Yeah, you had their
But
attention.
baseball.
You had young people's attention for a few months.
Yeah,
Sure.
so you had, obviously you talked about Kiwanis, then obviously the Optimist League still going on.
Mm-hmm.
VFW FOP
FOP.
had a league for a short time, and the Optimist League absorbed
The,
those teams
that's true.
and
They
expanded.
were
actually,
four, I think 4 to 6 teams. I think.
And of course, you got Murfreesboro Baseball Association
Yeah.
that has a ton of kids in it, and they've done a great job. And it's kind of interesting. You know, the philosophies of the two leagues were a little bit different, but that's fine. And whatever league fit you the best for your kid, whatever the goal was terrific. But the what, and you've been part of this, Bill, as being on the city council for as long as you have, were the additions of Barfield Park and McKnight Park. What kind of talk about how those became game changers for youth league baseball in this town?
Well, we didn't have the capacity that we had back in those days when we were just starting. We just didn't have the capacity. Not only ball fields, they had to grow into that capacity to be able to do that. And I remember when they were building Barfield Crescent Park. In fact, the city came to our club, our civic club, and asked us to help design that park. And we had meetings with the design team that was putting together Barfield Crescent Park, because we thought that was where we were going to move our program from Old Fort Park to Barfield Crescent.
we were led to think that.
Well, and
as he said earlier, don't get him started.
Well, history has so many things, but the irony of that is that we did not settle at Barfield Crescent Park, but we settled at Starplex. And the irony of that is that our program has grown and nurtured and continued to thrive in the environment that we didn't expect it to be. And Starplex was up and running at that time, but primarily it was a softball field for adults.
We had heard that we were going to remain where we were at Old Fort Park with the two fields there. And some of our people thought somebody needed to go to the Recreation Commission, and they elected me to do that, so I went and made a presentation. I don't know if you...
I remember it.
And basically what I said, if you leave this league where it is, it's going to die. It's going to die. And this league...
It would just choke itself off.
Yeah,
Right.
This league, we were led to believe we were going to Barfield. We had plans already in progress to make that switch, and now you've pulled the rug out from under us. You need to send us to Starplex. That's what you need to do. And they did it.
Yep.
We went to Starplex.
That worked out good for you. It's about 2 minutes from your house.
Well, I resigned as a head coach, and I took over the presidency of the league for 2 years and oversaw that transition, which went from about 400 kids to almost 1,000 overnight
in 2 years.
Yeah, actually over 1,000 kids.
And that was before computers. Most of this stuff
Yeah.
You had to do
paperwork.
Yeah.
You had Saturday morning sign-up days
Yes.
and all that kind of stuff. I
But
mean,
that-
you never have to. People don't understand that now.
There's a whole
after
lot that goes on behind the scenes to make
After
some
2
function.
years of not being on the field, I got itchy to get back into
He needed to be
into
back on the
coaching
field.
and get away from all this administrative stuff. So that's when I shifted over from the 11 and 12-year-old age group to the 13, 14,
graduated.
15-year-old age group. And I did that up until I stepped down about 3 or 4 years ago.
But you've still been coaching
That
since
helping
then.
out a little bit, coaching in the fall league.
He can't get away from it. He loves it, and I'm telling you, the young people really appreciate what he
Here's
pours into
somebody
it.
else that can't get away from it.
This should have been right off the top. But you still have a team?
Yes.
I just ran into him at the park the other night. His team was playing for the championship in the postseason tournament.
Oh, I tell you, there's just so many great memories, and to see Dick out there that night, that's what got us talking about the fact, of how long we've been out there together and how many memories that we have. Let me tell you real quick. Can I tell you a quick story? There's a quick story about Dick, and this happened over in the big field at Old Fort Park one night. And I
know what you're going to say.
It taught me a lesson because we had started a game and had I had a really good team, and we had scored 12 runs in like one first or second inning or something like that, and I'm sitting at third base coaching, and I'm thinking, oh man, and Dick's team is just can't get anything right, and he's frustrated, and his parents are frustrated, and all this kind of stuff, and I'm feeling bad about what's happening. So we had 2 outs, and I told the kid at third, I said, hey, listen, now next pitch, I just want you to go home. And he said, you mean if he misses the ball? And I said, no, you just run home. And so he ran into the tag at home plate, and the score is 12-0. Dick beat me 13-12.
Because you said,
I had gotten in a.
Hey, I bet his hand was out for the handshake after that game, wasn't it?
I'm telling you, I went from hero to goat in about 30 seconds because, it was so funny to see how we had certain limitations on pitching. That you couldn't pitch certain number of 12-year-olds, and I had changed pitchers and had ended up. I didn't have anybody that could throw a strike, and it got a little bit and a little bit. And I'm thinking, surely it can't be that bad. It can't get that bad.
I don't think we even had a mercy rule.
No.
There's no sympathy in baseball. My drill instructor at Paris Island told me where I could find sympathy. And it was in the dictionary.
I know exactly where it is. I've heard that before. We are talking Little League Baseball and going back with some great memories with Bill Shacklet and Dick Palmer. We'll take a break. Our final segment coming up after this here on WGNS. Looking for a charming home close to downtown and MTSU? Look no further than this 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 0-lot line at 1341 Sharon Court. This home features a spacious living room, an open kitchen, and a primary suite on the main floor. It could be perfect for a family or a couple who wants to live in the middle of everything while still in a private neighborhood. Call for a showing today, 615-542-1915. I'm Chip Walters with Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates.
Hi folks, listen up. This is Rodney French from French's Shoes and Boots. If work boots are what you want, come see hundreds of styles of the best brands of work boots on the market. Soft toe, safety toe, lace-up, slip-ons. French's has the best selection of work boots in Tennessee. If we don't have it, we'll get it. We carry small to extended sizes and wide widths in almost everything we sell.
It makes good sense to shop at French's. French's Shoes and Boots.
On South Church Street, between I-24 and Middle Tennessee Boulevard.
Do you suffer from peripheral neuropathy in your hands or feet, burning pain, balance problems, and decreased quality of life? Magnolia Medical Center can help.
This is Dr. David Morris with Magnolia Medical Center. We're in the Ascend building near the fountains in Murfreesboro.
Online at magnoliamedicalcenters.com.
Here at Bud's Tire, we make buying Michelin tires simpler. I'm Allison Mitchell with Bud's Tire Pros. We offer a straightforward approach to service, including nationwide warranties with every purchase. Stop in today to see our full lineup of Michelin and BF Goodrich tires. For whatever you drive, Michelin and BF Goodrich have a tire to fit any need. Bud's Tire Pros, hassle-free, guaranteed. We're located on East Main Street, exactly 3 miles from the town square, 1 mile past Rutherford Boulevard. Visit us online at budstirepros.tn.com.
This is Lisa Halliburton. It's nice to inherit family heirlooms, and Bell Jewelers can help you go through it and see what is real, what's not real, what's worth having appraised. And if it's an 80s style and you're a 2000s girl, then you want to have it updated, we can help you. This is Lisa Halliburton inviting you to come join our family at Bell Jewelers, 821 Northwest Broad Street, across from Toots Restaurant.
Get pharmacy services with a cherry on top from Reeves Sane, Murfreesboro's hometown pharmacy since 1980, at 1801 Memorial Boulevard and at reeves-sane.com.
This is a paid legal ad.
You've probably heard it a million times. If you're injured, call a lawyer. And you probably haven't because you don't know how much it will cost, how long it will take, or even if you have a case. At the law offices of John Day, we provide a free initial consultation because we understand that folks don't want to pay a lawyer only to find out they don't have a case. If you think we can help, we do so on a contingency basis, which means we only get paid if you do. Seriously injured? Call me, John Day.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, and worldwide at WGNSradio.com.
Welcome back to the Wednesday Roundtable here. We're traveling down memory lane with Dick Palmer and Bill Shacklett, talking about Little League Baseball and history here in Murfreesboro. These two guys coached in the Optimist League. Bill's still coaching, but obviously there have been tons of players in all of the little leagues, whether it was NBA or Optimist and all that. We were talking about some memories and some guys who have come through, and also, Bill, coaches who have given a lot of time, much like yourself and Mr. Palmer, and there's always stories about them, and it's always good when we can tell an Andy Womack story, right?
Well, one of my favorite stories Andy's shared about Little League was when he was out at Old Fort Park, and early part of the season, when you're playing a critical game against somebody, it's really tight and all, and players on first and second, third, and Andy, regardless, we had 15 kids playing, and we didn't have a mandatory play rule, but Andy would play kids, his younger kids. We all had 9-year-olds. We had kids 9 to 12 on our
we had
program.
about 15 players.
15 players, 9 to 12. And Andy just felt so compelled. He played his kids regardless, whatever the situation was. Well, it was a critical part of the game, and he has little Johnny in right field. Critical time, the ball, of course, when you have in situations like that, the ball finds those kids that are inexperienced. Oh, yeah. And so it's hit to right field, and he picks up the ball, and second and third, the winning run's on second, he throws the ball to the left field. And, of course, the left fielder doesn't expect it, so it goes all the way in the corner. The kid from second goes all the way around and scores. And everybody, the game's over, and he's coming in, and he said, Johnny, why did you throw the ball to the left fielder? And he said, well, Coach, that's the only person on the team I know. so without breaking stride, Andy says, okay, everybody line up on the first base side. Johnny, this is Billy. Johnny, this is Bobby. Johnny, he introduced everybody to Johnny, and Johnny said, Johnny, you can throw it to anybody now. So I thought that was the greatest story.
After I stepped down as head coach, they needed a coach in the fall league one year, and they had an opening for a coach in the 10 and 11-year-old division, kids that were just moving up.
Right.
So I got kids that had never played real baseball, and that was during that short span of time where they allowed kids to lead off base.
Yeah, that was the intermediate division.
And that was the worst thing what they ever did. But anyway, I was coaching third base, and we got a kid over to third, and I was telling him, there's one out now. He said, Coach, I've never been on third base before.
Really?
What do? I said, well, you just hang loose and I'll tell you when to run.
Oh, gosh.
Well, that kind of goes into being a kind of Art Linkletter here, and kids say the darndest things.
Yes.
What's the most unexpected response you ever got going back, like you said, what Andy had with little Johnny in right field, and that, what's the most unexpected answer or comment you ever got from a player during a game?
We used to have where coaches could not coach the bases. I mean,
I remember that.
So the kids had to coach the bases. So normally what I would do is take the younger kids so that they could learn the game and do the bases. And I wasn't normally, now the head coach normally goes to third base, but anyway, this little young 9-year-old, I'd given him the signs and all this, and the other coach came over between innings and said, I got to tell you what your player did. He said he had been working him 3. Why don't you tell Coach Shacklett told you it was okay for you to give me the signs. You just tell me what his signs are now. And he said, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you the signs. Every time he kept going back to him and saying, oh, now Coach Shacklett said it's okay. You can tell me his signs. And he said, I'm not going to tell you. And he said, I bet you don't even know the signs. And then he gave the signs to him and showed him the signs.
There you go. That's a good one.
I thought he showed him the signs, and he said, see, I do know the signs.
I've got one, too. We're playing again. This was at Old Fort Park. I had a pitcher who could throw hard, Tim Posh. Tim
was great.
He's now the youth minister.
At World Outreach, or was at one time he was at World Outreach.
Yep. But anyway, Tim was pitching. And my catcher was Clay Smith. Clay was a little bitty kid. His dad, Charlie, was a member of our club, I think.
Yeah, Charlie.
But about 2 or 3 innings into the game, the catcher called timeout. Said, Coach, beckoned for me to come out. So I went out and said, what's wrong, Clay? He said, you've got to tell Tim to quit throwing so hard. He's killing my hand. So I pulled out my handkerchief out of my pocket and stuffed it in his mitt. I said, there, I'll take care of it.
Oh, my God.
Wow, that's pretty good. You guys dropping some names, and we were talking during the break a little bit about, you look at Murfreesboro and, you kind of start at the top, and we've been fortunate to have great baseball over the years at Middle with, going back to John Stanford's years through Pete Maggs, Coach Toman, and now Coach Myers, and the roster at Middle has always been filled with a lot of guys from this area. All of those coaches brought players in from Murfreesboro and Rutherford County, and which is a great local tie. But then you think of the high schools and the jobs that have been done. You think about how long Mac Hawks has been at Oakland, and
exactly.
and the guy, everybody, he's kind of the ringleader there. But what, Stewart's Creek made the state tournament this year, Riverdale made the state tournament this year, and then and then all of those programs are being fed by these Little League programs, and guys who have come through those programs. I don't know if you didn't have him in Little League, Mr. Palmer, but you coached a congressman at Hobgood.
Bart Gordon.
That's right. You coached him. We talk about other players who made it big. So what are some names of kids who've come through and hit it pretty big athletically that came out of your programs?
Well, there's been
Kenny Gerhardt.
Kenny Gerhardt, and I'm not sure if did Kenny play in our program?
I don't think he played in our program.
I'm not sure, but played in programs in our. The issue of youth sports and all the activities that's happening in our community. We are just blessed to have several and many people who have committed themselves to youth athletics and have continued over the years to pour stuff into young people that have borne lots of fruit as not only in their careers. I mean, we've had Jerry Knox played at MTSU, Matthew Campbell played for me and played at MTSU, and there's just lots of people. Watkins folks played out there, but and Chip, the thing that I think that has been most rewarding to me is not just the athletic talent that we've had see come through, but the fact that Little League Baseball can help shape them into being good citizens, good fathers, good husbands. That the opportunity that the baseball field can shape character in people, and if they carry on and play sports, wonderful, and that's great. But a lot of them, I think the real fruit that we bear in Little League Baseball and what I consider to be the youth sports opportunity is when we see better people in our community. And because of their experience, they reflect upon that, look at those values, that perspective on life, and the value of that can be taught in the midst of a baseball game. If that shapes, that's what I think is the real fruit of Little League Baseball.
When I got that radio job in Jackson, one of the first things I did after finding a place to live was look into the Little League program down there.
Yeah.
And so happens they had an opening for a coach. And so I took a team called the Elks, sponsored by the Elks Club. And the very first year, when first time I saw this bunch, when they came out for their very first practice, I didn't know anything about the league, I just knew they had a tradition of really strong baseball because I had broadcast their all-star team winning the state tournament. So anyway, they came on the field and I thought, this is the best bunch of kids I think I've ever seen. Wow. They were 11 and 12 years old. No, they were 9 through 12 at that time. And I thought, we'll walk all over this thing. We finished third out of 4 teams.
Oh, my God.
But I had a left-handed pitcher named Marty Clements, who was just retired as the head of the emergency management services in Madison County.
Okay.
Marty's a very good pitcher, and the coach of that team that won the state tournament that I broadcast for had a team in that league, and they won it every year. I mean, it was just like Shacklett's Giants team used to win it every year in our league. They won it every year. The police, they were sponsored by the police, and he was a policeman on the force there. So that was the big game whenever we played them. Well, they beat us first 2 or 3 times we played, and then one night Marty was on and threw a no-hitter.
Wow.
At the police, and their coach Acuff, I still remember him, came up to me after the game, and he was not very cordial. He said, that's the first time I've ever had a no-hitter thrown on against my team, and it came on my birthday.
Oh, my gosh.
Marty went on to play high school ball, went on to play college ball, and was a pitcher at the University of Arkansas. A very good pitcher, by the way.
Yeah.
And then got into emergency management.
I don't know if Marty came, but when Dick, to tell you what he was doing in Jackson, when Dick had his celebrated 50 years of coaching, people came from Jackson to be here. I
had 2 kids come.
That came from Jackson.
2 guys, not kids.
They were men, but they came to celebrate the fact that he's 50 years and what he meant to them.
We talked about the lessons imparted on youngsters, and that's a big reason why you both got into it. What has been the biggest gift back to you for coaching a combined 100 years in Little League Baseball?
All the relationships.
Yeah.
The facts that that those relationships that we had when those men were boys, the fact that we have those memories and those relationships that have lasted for all these years. Had a young man yesterday came by the studio with his family, and he said, you probably don't remember me, and he gave me his name, and I said, yeah, you played third base and you were a great hitter. And he said, how do you remember that? And I said, I don't know, I need to defrag my hard drive. There's things that I need to remember that I can't remember, and yet something like that. He said, I can't believe you remember that. And I said, yeah, I remember the position you played. And I've had kids from other teams that'll tell me their name, and I'll remember what position they played or a particular event. And I don't know. Like I say, I need to defrag my hard drive. I need more space up there.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same way. I think the best reward for me is when they call me coach.
Yes.
Wow. Well, I'm having lunch with one of your former Dodgers today. That'd be Wes Counts.
Wesley.
Oh.
Wes Counts was played first base for me. He was left-handed.
Right.
But he batted right-handed, and I always wanted him to hit left because I love left-handed hitters.
Yeah.
But he was one of those, like my brother, who was left-handed and batted right-handed.
Yeah, so and those are great lessons. I'll ask you one councilman question today, Councilman Shacklett.
Well, I appreciate you.
You were glad I waited this long.
Are we about out of time?
This is
that's probably good for you.
Okay.
A good problem to have is that there's so many kids.
Yes.
And we have a city that wants to provide youth activities.
Yes.
And we've grown. We've got the Richard Siegel Soccer Complex, all of that. We've got Barfield. We've got Starplex, McKnight Park. Are there more baseball fields in the planning stage?
Yeah, you got to have ground to build baseball fields, and there's some opportunities that are out there, and the city's definitely concerned and trying to create more opportunities, because as our citizens grow, more people means more programs that are needed and in different areas as well. And so, as you know, the West Park and are going to be some opportunities for us to build more fields.
I'll second that.
Yeah,
Good
and
deal.
build more fields. So yes, we're definitely concerned about that, and it's a great opportunity. I think that we are blessed with the quality of programs, because it's just not about numbers. Sometimes you've got to have the quality of programs, and I think over the years established, those people that went before us established the quality of youth sports programs in Murfreesboro that we can just get better.
You guys have meant so much to so many families in this community with the years that you put in. Over 100 years of coaching in Little League between these two. Bill, Dick, thank y'all for coming by today and sharing some memories.
Thank you, Chip. Appreciate it. It's always a blast.
All right, good deal. Those guys, they're very special. Dick Palmer, Bill Shacklett, the Brian Barrett fan club. They're beating on the door downstairs. We got to get out of here and let Brian come on. Thank you for being with us today. We'll have another episode for you next week here on the Big G WGNS.